The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Hello everyone. In this weekend's Insights into Northeast Michigan, I'll be speaking with a few people from the National Marine Sanctuary to talk about some pretty important service projects taking place throughout the summer. Right now I have Stephanie Gandula from NOAA. She is the research coordinator, and we will be talking about things that are impacting our Great Lakes when it comes to research, particularly sinkholes.
That's right. We have a very special ecosystem just off the shores of Northeast Michigan. One in particular is called the Middle Island Sinkhole, and it's just north of Middle Island. Middle Island has a beautiful historic lighthouse. There's a couple shipwrecks right around there, of course, but just a couple 100 yards offshore, north of the island, is a submerged sinkhole. It's about 75 feet deep, and it was created when the surrounding limestone bedrock, so that's residual from the very shallow seas that used to be all over the continent billions of years ago. So the shallow seas left this limestone bedrock. The groundwater seeps in and eventually erodes this limestone and creates cavities. That's where we have this submerged sinkhole. Now, what thrives in this particular sinkhole is a community of microorganisms. It is the groundwater brings in low sulfate high sulfate, and low oxygen groundwater, which is not very good for fish to survive, but it is good for these microorganisms to thrive.
So you're saying fish can't survive in a specific sinkhole? That's
exactly right. In fact, often when we scuba dive in this particular sinkhole, we will see, one or two dead fish because they have accidentally, found their way into the sinkhole and there's no oxygen for them to survive.
How safe is it for our researchers to even go into the sinkhole?
It's very safe. Of course, our diving operations are very safe. We focus on safety first, and we are breathing compressed air that we bring with us. So we definitely have plenty of oxygen, plenty to breathe when we go down to conduct the research for visiting scientists.
Now, Stephanie, why is this sinkhole research important to us?
It's important for a number of reasons. Scientists from all over, particularly University of Michigan and Grand Valley State University, have for years, since the sinkhole was discovered back in 2001 or 2002, they have come here to conduct research, whether they're interested in the chemistry, the biology, the geology of this particular ecosystem. This ecosystem has not been found anywhere else in the Great Lakes and only a few other places around the planet. And so that's what makes it very special. They have brought graduate students and PhD students and scientists that are studying an amazing array of things, such as even DNA. These organisms, these microorganisms, are very simple, and so make a perfect study for geneticists. They're also looking at what the Earth looked like 2.5 million years ago, when these were the main organisms on the entire planet. So we're getting, it's like a time portal into
It's like a footprint. The sinkhole is kind of like a footprint of the past.
I
just
like
leaving
that.
A giant indentation, of history.
That's exactly right. Our planet's history, an insight really into what it was like that long ago. And it's an amazing place to visit. And we do have a lot of imagery and a lot of underwater video that we can share. But visiting this place is like a otherworldly landscape. It is blanketed with this purple cyanobacteria. That's these purple mats that are the microorganisms that thrive down there. And underneath those mats is a very rich sediment layer. It's very carbon rich, and so it smells kind of like sulfur. It's a very smelly place.
Ooh.
But what we do for these...
We all know what that smells like.
Yes, it's not so pleasant, but it's interesting. What we do when we scuba dive there is we collect the mats and some of the sediment and some of the groundwater for the scientists that are studying the sinkhole.
Now, I know NOAA has a glass bottom boat, and people who go on that cruise aren't necessarily diving into the water to see the sinkholes, but you guys do talk about research taking place on our Great Lake.
That's very true. The Friends of the Sanctuary operate the Lady Michigan, the glass bottom boat, and the tours that go out, of course, they go to see the shallow shipwrecks, but just like you mentioned, they also explore all the research that's happening in sanctuary waters, whether it's focusing on natural resources such as the sinkhole or such as invasive species, the issues that are very important to our communities. So it's a really exciting trip on the Lady Michigan about shipwrecks, but not just about shipwrecks.
Now, I know there are more than one sinkhole locations throughout Northeast Michigan. Are you familiar with any other locations?
There are some other locations for sure. I know there's some on land, and I visited those. Those are great hikes in Northeast Michigan for sure. But what's special about the Middle Island sinkhole is that the accessibility for divers, so it's not very, very deep. Like there are some that we have discovered 300 feet deep or deeper even. But what's special about the Middle Island one is it's quite accessible for scientists. It's only 75 feet deep. So we can easily scuba dive there. We can easily use other technology to explore the sinkhole, such as ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, and the different sampling techniques. So I would say this one is quite a special place.
Right now we are standing behind NOAA, the Thunder Bay Center, which is all things Thunder Bay and Lake Huron. And right now, Thunder Bay River is right behind us because this is one of the areas where divers and scientists will literally take technology and how do I even say it?
We'll examine. We'll look at it. We're looking at it and understanding it.
With really cool lasers. It's called lake bottom mapping. That's the specific term for it.
Yes.
So, Stephanie, what exactly is lake bottom mapping?
Well, what it is getting a closer, much more detailed look at what the bottom of Lake Huron or the Thunder Bay River actually looks like. And these details can provide a lot of insight into many, many, many things. The purpose behind understanding the lake bottom better, first of all, of course, is to look for shipwrecks, but it's not just about looking for shipwrecks. There are many other details that can provide insight into what type of animals live in that particular ecosystem. So fisheries biologists are very interested in the data that we can gather from lake bottom mapping.
And we know the fishing industry is very popular for people here in Northeast Michigan. We literally live right off the coast of Lake Huron, so that's a pretty big deal.
It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. And the idea behind getting a better understanding of what the sanctuary waters are all about, like I said, it's the fisheries management, it's coastal management, so it really brings in a lot of different players, which is one of the things we love to do, and that's work with many different partners.
Who are these partners that consistently work with NOAA for this type of research?
We have universities, so University of Michigan, University of New Hampshire, University of Delaware, Michigan Tech, and the list goes on and on. I hate to leave anybody out. And University of Rhode Island. So since the sanctuary was designated back in the year 2000, even in the early days, we knew the importance of understanding that lake bottom. So we partnered with Dr. Robert Ballard, who was famous for discovering the Titanic, to come out here.
That's my favorite movie.
It's your favorite?
It's 4 hours long. 4 hours long, but it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's a great film.
I was in the 4th grade and I literally cried right after the movie in my bunk bed. Like, Jack, please don't go, Jack, don't go.
Oh,
please.
I cried a lot too.
So, but conspiracy has it there was definitely enough room on that boat for Jack. Let's just throw that out.
I kind of agree with you. Poor Jack.
So going back to our scientists.
Yes, so Dr. Ballard, who discovered the Titanic, has partnered with the sanctuary way in the very beginning in 2001 to bring these amazing technological tools, whether it's underwater robots, whether it's side scan sonar, multi-beam sonar, and I'll explain those a little bit here soon.
It sounds very technical.
It is pretty technical. It's simple, but it is high-tech stuff, but you'll be able to understand it. So they go out and look at the lake bottom. They discovered some shipwrecks, and then very exciting, Dr. Ballard's team was back with the Ocean Exploration Trust just this last May to continue this mapping. Now, you probably have heard that Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary is 4,300 square miles, so it's a big chunk.
It's pretty big.
Big portion of northwestern Lake Huron. But we have only mapped about 16% of that. So we've only taken a really good close look at 16% of the bottom.
Why is that? Is it because the research is so thorough and detailed that you can't, really go too fast with it?
Oh, that's a great point. You really, when you're surveying the lake bottom, you do not want to go too fast. You have to go slow, like with anything, to make sure to capture those details. But it also takes a lot of resources and a lot of these partnerships, ship time, technology to get out there. So it's very expensive to get out there and map the lake bottom. So
is it safe to say that the laser is similar to an X-ray or like a CAT scan? Like where you're looking into the body to see what's wrong with it.
Sure.
Or looking into the lake to find what's there.
It is very similar in that we are able to get a good look. The way, for example, that the multi-beam sonar works is they send out sound waves. And same with the side scan sonar, they send out waves that then, the way these waves come back to the instrumentation, whether it's something being towed behind the vessel or something mounted under the hull of the vessel, the way they come back tells the scientists exactly what the lake bottom looks like. You can see the elevation or the bathymetry of what the lake bottom looks like. You can see if there's any man-made structures, such as a shipwreck on the lake bottom. So by sending out these sound waves, they're able to read and understand what comes back to see what it looks like. Painting the lake floor is what another euphemism for it as well.
How far does the paint go in the water?
Well,
that's the question.
That's a great question. So right now, Dr. Robert Ballard and many other ocean explorers are out mapping thousands and thousands of feet deep in the ocean. So depending on the technology and the power that you have, that dictates how deep you can actually understand what the bottom looks like. The maximum depth in Lake Huron is about 750 feet deep. So we don't need to go that deep to get a good look, to get a good picture of what the sanctuary looks like.
Why is this research such a big deal for our Northeast Michigan residents?
It is a very important data set, if you will, or scientific information to understand the ecosystem as a whole. And I think we're doing that more and more across many fields. We're learning, you need to work together. And if I understand what one scientist is looking for, maybe we can work together to understand and blend our research to get a big, full picture of the entire ecosystem. And that helps managers, it helps city managers, counties, statewide, NOAA better understand how to maximize and utilize this resource that is truly for everyone.
Without this research, how much would we really know about our Great Lake?
That's a great question. I think the technology is such that we're able to learn so much about, from the top to the bottom of the water column, not just the bottom mapping. And I think that would be a terrible, blank in our scientific knowledge vacuum if we didn't have such research happening out on the lake.
When is the next time we will see our scientists and divers out here in our water?
Well, actually, right around the corner here, we have another survey project starting. We're partnering with another NOAA line office, the National Center for Ocean and Coastal Science. And this is a NOAA office that works hard to do just exactly what I was talking about, and that's to understand the habitat, to understand what's out there under the water that we can't see. And then they share that information with habitat managers, with fisheries managers, with people wanting to make sure that the communities that are on the coast understand what the resources are that they have. So we have a 2-week project starting here at the end of July.
When will the project wrap up?
It's just 2 weeks, so it'll be done beginning of August, and then soon after that we'll have The next step, I mean, we go out there and survey, but then the next step, which is a lengthy one, is understanding that data that was collected and processing it. So, by the end of the summer, we should have some really cool data to share with people.
While we're wrapping up this section of Insights into Northeast Michigan, we're talking about lake bottom mapping, which sounds really cool, but also really expensive. How many dollars are we looking at for this project?
Oh gosh, I don't even know if I can answer that. I mean, it's pretty complicated in that you have to secure the tools. So that's the multi-beam sonar itself. You have to secure the scientists to go out and be able to deploy those tools and then process the data. And of course, the vessel time, that's a huge expense. One of our main partners is NOAA's Great Lakes Environmental Research Laboratory, which makes it possible for all this science to happen out in the lake. So it's expensive, but it's important. And so the partnerships and leveraging those partnerships makes it more feasible economically to do it. And then there's also the work of the Friends of the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary that write a lot of grants to afford scientists to go out and do their research.
By the time the lake bottom mapping research, is over, how can we as citizens get our hands on this pretty cool research that's happening here at NOAA?
Well, just stay tuned for sure. Stay tuned to thunderbay.noaa.gov and stay tuned to WBKV because I'll be talking with you, Elijah.
Oh,
and
of course.
Yes, and one of the main goals with NOAA working to undertake the scientific research is to make sure that the public has access to it. So with technology and online presence, there's always a way to get the information out there, and we here at Thunder Bay will do our best to make sure the community knows about it.
Well, you heard it from Stephanie Gandula herself. She is the research coordinator here at the National Marine Sanctuary. And for this section of Insights into Northeast Michigan, we were just discussing lake bottom mapping. There's more to come. In this segment of Insights into Northeast Michigan, we will be speaking with Sarah Waters, hence all the water that we've been talking about thus far. She is an archaeologist and education coordinator here at the National Marine Sanctuary. So Sarah, why are we standing in front of this dive tank right now, and how does this relate to the university students that NOAA works with each year for the most part?
That's a great question. Well, the dive tank is part of the former paper mill that was once on this site, and we're really excited we were able to repurpose it so that students, visiting students, university students, college students can use it for dive training and also for marine technology. And when I say that, I mean testing things like ROVs or remotely operated vehicles or AUVs, autonomous vehicles. So all those new technologies.
This is a lot of equipment
Yeah.
that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, and where better to test it than a great big tank like this. Now you can test it offshore and that's also great, but sometimes when you're calibrating different machinery, it's nice to have it in a contained area where if something goes wrong, you can just go and get it much easier than out on the lake. So
And then
that's
the
a real
waves.
benefit.
Like you can actually see the bottom
Yep.
of the tank.
Yep, and of course we use it also for younger students for them to practice their skills too, but for university partners they really love the accessibility of the dive operations where they can set up. So if they're training students to do scuba diving or if they're using this different kinds of equipment, we have all that available with the tank as well as the easy access to Lake Huron right here offshore.
How can university students get involved with the research projects NOAA works on all of the time?
Yeah, we have actually worked with many different universities, both in Michigan and out of state. And typically it happens in one of two ways, either a class, like a university professor comes here and holds a class at our site and we help out in whatever way we can. And often they generate data for us or information on the shipwrecks that then we can use. So for example, next week we're hosting Indiana University and their dive sciences program, and so they've got 3 faculty members bringing a bunch of undergraduate students here, and they're going to practice their scuba diving skills out on the lake, and at the same time they're going to be 3D modeling some of our nearshore shipwrecks. So that's great information for us to have. We can help share it with the public once they pass that on to us. So
why is it such a big deal for our students, across the country to get involved in, Great Lakes research?
So I think it's a great opportunity for them to get real world skills. So then if they come here for a class like Indiana University next week, they get exposure to a part of the country maybe they haven't been to before. If they're not from this area, they get to actually practice those skills and see career paths. They can meet the staff here at the Marine Sanctuary and find out what each of us do. So I'm the education coordinator, but we have boat captains, we have lots of positions, so they can see all those things while they're here, so they can see possible career paths, as well as learn about other careers in NOAA, right, or the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. So it exposes students to possible career paths. It gives them real-world opportunities to practice skills outside of the classroom. And I think those are the two biggest benefits to working with an agency like NOAA for a university.
What are some of the career paths that you see students going down?
Yeah, that's a great question,
I'm
and
sure it varies.
yeah, it does. So since I've been at the Marine Sanctuary for about 10 years, and we've worked with 40 different students in all different capacities. We had a student do a sustainability internship. So besides coming here for a class like Indiana University next week, as I mentioned, they can also do internships with us, and that's usually arranged on a depending on what their course of study is. So like you just asked, so sustainability, we had an inquiry from a student from Grand Valley State University who wanted to do like a senior project for her degree on sustainability. So she came and she learned about how the building uses a geothermal system and that we're a gold LEED facility, and she wrote up a sustainability plan that could help us do better at recycling and other sustainable objectives. So that's not marine archaeology or, right, really much to do with the lake, but more broadly, she was able to tap into those NOAA resources. We had a university student from Michigan State University, a graduate student in the College of Social Sciences, and he was studying policy, and he learned about Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary. He did a visit up here as part of a tourism class, actually, and decided he wanted to do a senior project on the educational partnerships that the Marine Sanctuary has with Sea Grant and DNR and MSU Extension here. And so he ended up doing a senior project on that remotely. So he came here once, but then we worked with him remotely in Lansing to finish up his senior project. So it's really, students can do a variety of things. They can do scuba diving, marine archaeology like we talked about. We've had students do remote sensing, historical research. I mentioned sustainability, and of course outreach and education. We have an intern this summer
They're definitely
from
getting
Florida.
those hard skills.
Oh yeah, there's it's almost infinite the amounts of things that they could choose to do a project on here. So really, those are the two big ways, either a class coming here, and of course we have our partnership with Alpena Community College, who runs an industrial technology class with some tracks in drone piloting and ROV piloting. And so we work with ACC locally here for their students to get real world opportunities, whether it's practicing piloting in the tank or going out on the Lady Michigan to deploy an ROV or take some drone footage of shipwrecks for us. So both near and afar.
I know an underwater RV is a big thing that you guys work on with students from our area. And I know that they use this dive tank here for competitions.
Yeah,
Why is
see
that?
some vestiges down there.
Yeah, I definitely see some stuff down there.
So the ROV competition, the remotely operated vehicle competition, is a way for K-12 students to practice STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math skills.
You don't have to be a university student to get involved
That's
with this
right.
dive tank.
That's right, you don't. And actually, all summer long, we have what we call ROV Open House on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So learners of all ages can drop in and give it a try, but those are great stepping stones if you get interested in those kinds of things as a K-12 student, or even as, if you're doing a career change. We've had people that have started their own businesses with ROVs and other marine technologies who've wanted to come and test out their products in our tank. Again, a closed environment gives you a little bit of safety, right? So if you lose control of that vehicle, you don't have to figure out how to get it out of Lake Huron. It's nice to have it right here.
Altogether, what's the biggest takeaway our university students are getting when they come to the National Marine Sanctuary to do research?
I think the biggest takeaway for university students doing research here is they know they're contributing to an information database about our Museum of the Lake, all those shipwrecks that are there. They're providing information that will live on, that the public can access, so that more of us can learn about our heritage here in the Great Lakes, and so they're really contributing as citizen scientists to that information database for people to use, and so that's really great, rather than having your research sit away in a library somewhere, right? Like, they're getting it out there.
All right, Sarah, I want to thank you so much for speaking with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming by.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.